Hi, Laura.
Hi.
How you doing?
Well, we've been sitting talking for about 2.5 hours, so I don't know that I have much chat left in me for this episode.
Yeah, it's been deep conversations, hard conversations, but important conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
times are tough, but so are we.
Exactly,
as they say.
Exactly. We're both struggling a little bit at the moment, but yeah, talking helps.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the thing that I think we sometimes forget, or perhaps our listeners might need a reminder of, is we really do have ADHD. So, yeah, do you know all those struggles that you have, like almost daily, where you do your absolute best and everything still goes tits up? We have those every day.
It's fun and games, isn't it?
Yeah, it's far from fun and games just now, but we'll get there. We persevere.
We will. How was Ibiza?
It was wonderful. It was so wonderful. It was so lovely to see my Ibiza family. Weather was a bit patchy, but, you know, not going there for sunshine, really. Just so lovely to see everybody and reconnect. But, yeah, very, very hard to leave. Yeah, hard to leave.
I bet. Coming back to this fucking miserable weather. Honestly, it's winter here now. Pretty much.
The first of many.
I'm already depressed about it.
But I tell you what I'm not depressed about is that we just hit 900,000 downloads.
That's like nearly 1 million.
That's nearly 1 million. And also we hit number 32 in the Society and Culture podcast charts today. And the imposter syndrome is real because I hear the words coming out of my mouth and I still don't believe them.
Yeah, it doesn't compute. Like, I'm like, what is a chart? What does it mean? What is this? But
why are our names anywhere near those people's names?
But yeah,
thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we've had a lot of lovely messages. We'll still get messages every single day from all over the world with people telling us that the podcast has helped them. And one such message, shall I read it?
Yeah, go for it.
So this message is actually from our next guest. Only this year, at the age of 69, have I realised I pretty definitely have an ADHD brain, with maybe a bit of autism thrown in. Always easily overwhelmed, struggling with memory and word finding, massive social anxiety, tendency to depression, self-critical, no confidence, lots of strategies to enable me to cope with memory problems, shying away from taking on responsibility for fear of being overwhelmed, thoughts constantly interrupting over thoughts, jabbering or silent. Often told I'm over-focusing and overthinking. I'm not sure I have anything to offer or if I can speak coherently enough to be of any use, but I do feel that there must be many people of my age and older who have struggled with life because of ADHD. My strategy on the whole has probably been to withdraw from it. I hear that. Mm-hmm. I feel that older generations are missing out on podcasts about ADHD. Perhaps I just haven't found the right one yet. And maybe you could find a way of interviewing me. I'm terrified, in brackets. That could be of help to them and hopefully get more older people involved in talking about their ADHD.
Absolutely.
So we were made up to receive that.
Yeah.
And we reached out. So we got that quite a while ago, actually.
Yeah, it was a while ago. And we've been wanting to speak to this person for quite a while.
Yeah. I don't know if the date's on it, but yeah, Kit reached out to us a while ago and we knew that we needed to have her on. And then we kind of arranged that we were going to, and then Kit got really nervous. Mm-hmm. And she was rightly very afraid to speak to us because, as you'll find out, she does really suffer with RSD, really suffer with social anxiety. So suddenly she knew that the message needed to get out there, but she didn't know if she would be able to do it. And we're so glad that she did.
Yeah, it's such an important episode. And I think like I resonate with so many things that she said in her letter, but I'm a 38. No, I'm not 38.
You wish.
I was diagnosed at 38.
Yeah.
And I've not had those extra years and years and years of it all being up against me. And so like, I can't even begin to imagine the effect it's had on her getting to her age and not knowing what the hell's going on.
Well, exactly that. And the point is, you know, we're here talking about late diagnosed ADHD and saying that's late 30s, early 40s, which is the average age that women do get diagnosed if missed in childhood.
Yeah.
But like, actually, you know, I discovered it at about 35. So Kit was nearly double my age when I discovered it. Like, imagine that. And I think it's so poignant because if you think about all the people, especially in the last episode, we touched a lot on family and like telling family and friends and stuff. And in the episode before, when we talked to the ADHD love couple, like the parents that perhaps are not being very supportive and being very resistant to the idea of ADHD, potentially being because they've been up against it their whole life too.
Yeah.
And it's so confronting to have to face it actually later in life.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we spoke to Kit, and this is an incredible interview.
Honestly, she is such a legend. We're so grateful.
And I'm just so proud of her for reaching out and for speaking to us, because it wasn't easy for her.
It really wasn't. And she's just so wonderful. We love her, and we know you will too.
Yeah, so enjoy.
Enjoy.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF, ADHD as females, the podcast.
We did it for the acronym.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura, and we
are
ADHD AF. Seriously.
Well, that feels like a lifetime ago.
Doesn't it just?
Since that recording in May 2022, we have been on quite the safari.
Mm-hmm.
We moved to the same street at the same time, at the same age, with the same undiagnosed neurodevelopmental condition. But despite all of the serendipity and the similarities, our ADHD presents completely differently from each other. But make no mistake, it is equally debilitating for us both.
Over the course of season 1, we used our voices to raise awareness, break the stigma, and share our experiences in the hope that they help others. And unbelievably, it worked, leading us to help listeners in almost every country in the world and creating ADHD AF live events and an online peer support community, for all of which we're so very grateful. Despite all that, we're still just two rebels with a cause, having a blether from a tiny village on the beach in Aberdeen, Scotland. Two pieces of sea glass washed up on the same shore.
Trigger warning. We cover some triggering topics, so please read the description of each episode before listening. We're not medical professionals, therapists or coaches. We're not qualified or even emotionally equipped to offer advice or support. We're only experts by our own experiences, which we share alongside what we discover in these crucial conversations to raise essential ADHD awareness amidst a global crisis. We won't always get it right. We will talk over each other and forget the point mid-sentence. As we continue to unmask, we're attempting to unashamedly own our own too muchness.
We wear leopard print to our events because the leopard is a symbol of Aberdeen. It also symbolises bravery, courage, and the reclaiming of power. Plus, we're a little bit hun.
Yeah.
So that's why it's become the uniform of our leopard print army, our own special camouflage to unite the community.
We're called ADHD as females purely for the acronym ADHD AF. Get it? Because we both have a juvenile sense of humour.
And we swear like sailors. Sorry, mums. And of course, we're ADHD as...
Anyway, this is an inclusive space where all genders are so very welcome.
Yes, they are. So join us as we continue to make some serious noise about this misunderstood condition to help others like us alongside raising awareness with a hope to influence systemic change so that those in need can be treated both medically and with the respect they deserve. We continue on this safari because hell hath no fury like two late-diagnosed ADHD women.
ADHD as females, the podcast.
So, let's start with some quickfire questions. Can you tell us your name?
Kit.
And your location?
I'm in Totnes in Devon. You'll hear the seagulls even though I'm not by the sea.
And your occupation?
Retired.
What was your occupation?
A long time I was a stay-at-home mum.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an occupation?
Yes, absolutely it is.
And then I generally worked in various different ways with people, mostly people with learning disabilities or disabilities, often as a PA.
Fantastic.
Diagnosis status?
Undiagnosed.
Self-diagnosed.
My son, who's very similar to me, got a diagnosis about 2 days ago, which was mild to moderate ADHD.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congrats to them.
I'm definitely ADHD.
Self-diagnosed, which is
Yeah.
valid.
Absolutely.
I think along with a bit of autism as well. So
And are you a can't start person or a can't stop person?
both. I can't start, but once I do start, I can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Can't sleep or can't get up?
I can sleep and I can get up.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's a new one.
winning.
I wake up and my brain's going, "Ooh," so I've
Yeah.
got to get up.
Before your eyes even open?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over emotional or impassive?
Both again.
Yeah.
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 Texting or talking?
Texting.
And books or audiobooks?
Books.
Going out or staying in?
Staying in.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
It's the hardest question of the lot, isn't it? Current hyperfocus.
Current hyperfocus. I've got ADHD and I can't remember.
That's absolutely fine. Perfect. Perfect.
Amazing.
Well, thank you for that. So what got you here? What led you to your self-diagnosis discovery of ADHD and autism?
My oldest son's family had just arrived. There were either 3 or 4 of them, I'm not sure. And we call her my daughter-in-law. They're not married, but she's my daughter-in-law. She's lovely. And anyway, I'd offered them all a drink. I said I'd make them a drink, so I put the kettle on. And then I found her in the kitchen making herself a drink. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I was making you a drink, wasn't I? But I'm sorry because I've been," I don't know what I've been doing, but, and she said, "Has it ever occurred to you that you might be ADHD?" And it sort of went ping. And she said, "I'm going to get you a book." She did. It was an American one and it didn't fit me really.
Yeah.
And it got lots about makeup and appearances, how you appear and stuff like that. And that's never been something I've been really into. I just appear as I appear.
Yeah.
So that I didn't connect with it very well. But at the same time, the son who's just been diagnosed said to me, "I've just been to the doctor to ask about an ADHD diagnosis." He then sent me questionnaires that the doctor had told him to do, which were for ADHD and for autism. And I did them both and I scored really high. I was so chuffed. For once I did well.
Well done. No, that's really common, isn't it? We both found out through people's suggestions to us that we had it.
And we hear a lot about parents getting diagnosed or finding out that they're ADHD through their children going through the diagnosis process.
I think my son, actually, it's because his son is ADHD, who's 11, you know.
Yeah. And it's kind of working its way back,
through
absolutely.
the generations.
Yeah. So do you mind telling us your age?
70. I
You're
remember.
70.
It's good.
Yay! We can never remember either. When did you turn 70?
In March.
And when did you suspect that you had ADHD? When did this all happen?
It was last year, some point during last year. I can't remember when.
So at
now.
69, yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously you're 70 years old now, and a lot of people that we've spoken to that are a little bit older have said that, oh, is there point getting a diagnosis? Is that something that you're seeking? Would you like to go through the whole diagnosis process?
I'm the same, that I'm not sure there's a point. One thing I have read is that it's quite difficult to distinguish ADHD from dementia. I've always said all my life, no one will notice if I get dementia.
Yeah.
Because I'm so forgetful and doolally and all over the place, no one will notice. So that sort of put me off. And I do worry. I've been worrying since I was in my late 30s, early 40s, probably, about having dementia. Before that, I don't think I realised that maybe you could get it when you were young. And my son tells me he has been the same, privately worrying.
But that must be so stressful for you. That must be so horrible to go through your life just having this fear because you know that there's something not right and you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because it's one of the most common things that is suspected before ADHD is early onset dementia. And what's really interesting is particularly you saying the age that you were, because what we've learned, as you know, we're not experts, what we've learned is that the ADHD symptoms change throughout a person's lifetime, and particularly with hormones. So obviously in your late 30s is when the perimenopausal hormones start to come in, which is where we're at. And those hormones exacerbate the ADHD symptoms. So that's why at that point you would have started to have that worry, I suspect.
I think it might be that, but I think it might also be that before that, I didn't realise there was such a thing as early onset dementia. So it didn't, it hadn't crossed my horizons.
Yeah.
So obviously you're saying you're a little bit worried and you're not sure whether you should go for a diagnosis. Is it worry obviously in case it's not ADHD or?
I go through phases of really thinking it isn't.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a bit of worry, oh, maybe I have got dementia. And then I'm now, rather than thinking, have I got dementia? It's like, oh, maybe I didn't have dementia, but now my dementia is getting worse because I'm remembering things worse. And maybe I have got dementia. I think that's part of it. And I think part of it is just that I feel sort of old and set in my ways. And like I've developed loads of coping strategies.
Of course.
I know some of them aren't ideal, but I feel sort of reasonably settled with how I am, or acceptant of how I am. And actually, the ADHD thing has helped me to be more acceptant of who I am.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That's lovely to hear. And I mean, the thing is, I really understand what you're saying, because it's like, if you were, so we hear every day about all these people going to the doctors, being dismissed because the average GP doesn't have the adequate training and is, of course, the gatekeeper to diagnosis. Yeah. So if you're going to come in at the age of 70, more so than if you'd have gone when you were younger, that would be another thing that they could potentially just not even want to look into it, because it would just be written off as that, even if it wasn't. So I could see that as another barrier. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But the point is, in identifying this in yourself, you've found peace in that, and that's fantastic. And that's why that's one of the many reasons why self-diagnosis is valid, because you can see it and you can accept it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's great, apart from the times when I'm really doubting that I have it and I'm thinking, oh, I've just diagnosed myself with it and it's an escape clause. But I've forgotten there's a word for that, isn't it? What's the expression for when?
Imposter syndrome.
Oh, that's it, imposter syndrome. And that I have a lot as well.
Do you think that getting a diagnosis might help you with that, give you the validation so that you can continue the rest of your life with that validation, knowing that it is ADHD and it's not something else?
I think that could help, but the prospect of A, convincing a doctor, and then B, going through it all. Though I have a couple of times, I've introduced myself to doctors and I've said, I'm probably ADHD. And they've gone, oh, that's helpful. They haven't said more, but it's like, it's helpful to them in relating to me.
Yeah. So
they sort of almost accept my diagnosis, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, aside from the imposter syndrome, what would you say your greatest ADHD struggle is?
Feeling overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed incredibly easily by just someone adding one more thing to what I feel like I've got to do. I think that's a big one. And social contacts. I find I get very self-critical after I've been with people. And that's got a name as well, hasn't it? I've never been any good at remembering the names of anything.
RSD.
People, my children.
RSD, yeah. Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria.
Yeah. And I frequently feel like I've really messed things up and go over and over. And I think a lot of my life, one of my strategies has been just to avoid people.
Yeah.
To avoid contacts and to keep contacts to just one or two people at a time.
Yeah. Just to save yourself from experiencing the RSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally hear that.
And I still work on that basis. But now I've got the confidence to say, no, I don't want to go to a party. Not to make up an excuse or find a last minute reason, or no, I don't want to join. I can join a group if it's educational and there's a focus.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So I don't have to relate to all the people there because I'm relating to the topic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
That
and
makes sense.
It's about having that self-understanding as well, to know what you can and can't cope with and not put yourself in situations that are going to stress you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I listen to the podcast, I'm always sort of like, how can these people who've got ADHD be doing all the stuff that they're doing, but it's different people, different symptoms,
Exactly. And that's the thing. For us, there are two of us. So we play to our strengths and support the other. And that's how we get along, basically.
Yeah.
That's how we get anything done is by pulling each other along.
Yeah, I would not be anywhere where I am today if I didn't have Laura by my side helping me.
Likewise.
It's been very valuable.
Yeah.
So with having 70 amazing years, what do you feel that having undiagnosed ADHD has cost you?
What's it cost me? I think I'd have probably had a better relationship with my long-term partner if I'd known I had it.
Yeah. And
therefore we'd know the reasons why when he would suggest, let's do something, I'd go, no, I don't want to, it's too much. That was a constant source of friction. And I think there are a lot of ADHD things that might have helped. I mean, we're not together anymore and we've got a reasonable relationship, and I can even talk to him about it now.
That's really good.
I think it's maybe cost my children in rather odd and inattentive parenting. Or both over attentive and inattentive, and then me grabbing a theory about child rearing and running with it, and then dropping it and moving on to something else. And I don't know. I can think of regrets, but I'm not sure if they're all tied with ADHD. But yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not nice to have regrets, but it's just a reflection on, in hindsight. If you knew if you had the knowledge at the time, it would have framed things differently, But we can only do our best with the knowledge that we have. We can only act with what we have in the moment, can't we?
And I was listening to a podcast with Kathy Burke. I can't remember who she was interviewing at the time. I think it was maybe Paul Whitehouse. And he was saying, when people get asked the question, do you have any regrets? And they answer no, like it's bad to have regrets or whatever. He was just like, fuck that. Everyone's got regrets.
Oh God, I got loads.
Everyone. And anyone says that they don't have any regrets is lying.
Absolutely.
So we've all got them and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
So you've already said that you feel like you also have autism. So we do talk about comorbidities. Because we all have them. So how do you see autistic traits in yourself? Like, what makes you align with autism?
I think one of them is getting really quite upset and angry when people aren't direct. I don't think that's ADHD, because I'm trying to understand what they're saying that they want, or that how what's required of me in a situation, and they're only giving hints and clues, and I'm going, tell me what you want. I need an answer. I need sort of concrete. So I think that's one. I think it's partly the ADHD as well. I have this desire for order. I'm very disordered, but I have a desire for order, but that's partly an ADHD strategy as well, because if things are a bit ordered, I can remember where they are. But if they're all over the place where I'd naturally be leaving them and putting them, I'd have not a clue where they are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So in order to manage my not being able to find anything and not remembering where anything is and not remembering anything, I try to keep things ordered. And I guess that's quite a useful aspect of the autism, that I can do it, but it can become a bit obsessive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something where desire for order and hyperfocus, I could get totally focused on that, and my children would be left. You entertain yourself and don't get bad, why are you getting so upset?
Yeah.
I've got this very important thing that I'm doing.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's like maybe a combination.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there any other comorbidities that you recognise that are linked to ADHD? Like, obviously we hear of anxiety, depression,
OCD, addictions,
chronic pain.
I'm like sort of totally, I feel very, very vulnerable to addiction, and I seem to have cut myself off from addictive things, bar caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
From being really young. I did try alcohol and I didn't like it, and I think that's because of depression, because I found it took me into just a little bit of alcohol would make me sink into that more depressive mood than I already experienced. So I would say I've had low level, I've rarely had severe depression, but I have had a level of depression for a lot of my life. I thought depression was the norm, and the people that weren't depressed were weird. Yeah. I mean, my sister gave me an apron and it said something like, "Stop worrying, it won't ever happen." And yes, everybody comments on my level of anxiety and worry.
Yeah.
So where do you get your dopamine from?
Caffeine. Do you get it from caffeine?
Yeah, whatever makes you happy.
Listening to the radio. Yeah, Radio 4 has been a mainstay for me all through. I've had it on constantly. Well, not now. Now there's podcasts and sounds and all these things. I listen to a lot broader range, which is how my son also put me on to you. And what's the other? First of all, he put me on the ADHD, the
adults.
Mrs. ADHD.
Yeah, the adults, the ADHD adults podcast.
ADHD adults. Thank you, ADHD. Yeah, onto that, and then I've just binge listened to your podcast and their podcast.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't do a lot of tasks without that. I'm listening to something at the same time because like if I'm going to wash up, I think, oh no, I'm not going to wash up, and I think, oh, I'll carry on listening too. And then I put my headphones on and then it's all right.
Yeah.
Get you through, absolutely.
You find that with a lot of people we speak to with ADHD say that they are able to do things when they're doing something else.
Yeah.
It's almost like if I pay attention to this boring task I'm doing, then I will get bored and not be able to do it. So it's almost like I have to put my attention elsewhere so that when I'm doing the boring task, my attention's there and I'll do it without thinking. It's almost like autopilot. I was laughing about that because this morning I was doing the dishes and I'd opened the cupboard door because I have a cupboard above my sink, and I'd opened the cupboard door and I'd sat my phone up in it so I could scroll through videos. But obviously I'm washing the dishes, so I can't scroll. So I was using my nose to scroll through the videos as I was washing the dishes.
Wow, thank you for that. That's really good because I don't know what to do when my hands are wet. And now I do.
Open the cupboard door, prop my phone against a mug, and use my nose to scroll through videos.
So resourceful, honestly. Every day's a school day.
That's brilliant. Oh, my phone's off. I want to try it now.
If you're finding this podcast helpful and you're in a position to do so, please join our Patreon peer support community via the link in the blurb of this episode. For unheard bonus and full interview video content and behind the scenes exclusives, including a next guest spoiler and first dibs and discounts on our handmade and ethically created merchandise and apparel, and live events tickets. Also blogs, vlogs, live community Zoom blethers, monthly advice from an ADHD coach, body doubling, and access to our Discord, filled with literally like-minded legends from all around the globe, including ourselves, who totally get it, who you can lean on, learn from and blether with any time. Because the only people who know what it's like aboard the late ADHD diagnosis roller coaster are the other passengers.
We've created this platform in order to support ourselves financially, to be able to continue creating ADHD AF and for our podcast to remain ad-free. If you don't have the funds, there are other peer support platforms available. Check out the resources page on ADHDasfemales.com. If you can support us, in turn, you will receive the support of our community, a full circle of support for the leopard print army. We spent our entire lives feeling like aliens, only to discover there's a whole planet of us. So hop aboard the spaceship and join us at patreon.com/ADHDasfemales.
If you would like to support us without joining the community, you can make a donation via our Buy Me a Coffee page, buymeacoffee.com/ADHDasfemales.
Both of us and the entire ADHD AF community really, really appreciate your support.
We really do. Tell us, Kit, what would you like the world to know about ADHD? Is there a misconception you would like to bust or a message that you would like to give the wider world? So not necessarily people with ADHD, but something that you think everyone should know.
That people with ADHD really struggle to answer questions coherently and just to bear with us, accept we are who we are.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm sure if I sat down and gave it some concerted attention, if I hyper-focused on it, I might be able to give more coherence.
I think that's a great answer.
No, it is.
Bear with us, be patient.
It's about compassion.
Yeah.
Compassion and understanding, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you like our listeners to know? For example, if there's other people that are in your age bracket that are maybe struggling, is there any messages for them or even for the younger listeners? What would you like them to know?
I think accept who and how you are, that you're fine. Not that I think I'm fine, but but yeah, it's okay. It's okay to be who you are. I went to school reunion very bravely when I was about 40 and regretted it. But I do remember one person just saying to me, "Oh, you always were an oddball." And at the time, I was very hurt by that, actually.
Yeah.
I was very hurt. But now, be proud of being an oddball. There you go. That's my message.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Love that. Absolutely right.
It's so much better to be remembered as an oddball than to be remembered as someone that
Or
was
not remembered because you're so bloody boring.
Exactly. At least they remembered you. So there you go. But yeah, I'd rather be remembered as the weird one than the boring one, or like Laura says, not being remembered.
Yeah, give them something to talk about. So what is your win of this week? Tell us something positive for you this week that's happened.
It can be as little or as big as you like.
Oh, this week. See, now what my brain's doing, it's going, when does the week start? Did it start on Sunday or did it start 7 days ago? Or did it... And
any recent wins, it can be in the last month if you like.
Wins.
Don't pressure yourself. Take your time.
I can't. I need a lot of time to work that out, because what's happening in my head is all the different things that have been happening in the last few days, and they're all bouncing around. And I think because I do a lot of self-criticism, I probably couldn't. If you asked me the opposite question, I probably couldn't come up with an answer.
Well,
my losses.
I have a little win that I think a little win for yourself, because you said that you were very nervous about coming on and speaking to us here. And I think you're doing an incredible job. So I think that's a massive win.
That's a massive win, Kit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm still really nervous and now I'm real shivery as well. Thank you. But I guess it's a win that I didn't just duck out of it at the last minute.
Exactly.
I've actually done it.
And we're so grateful that you didn't. We're so grateful that you reached out to us whenever it was.
Yeah.
And we've been so looking forward to interviewing you. So thank you so much for putting yourself out there, because it is a brave thing to do.
Yeah.
And it really matters. You know, when we started this podcast and we knew that we wanted to share in hope that there were others like us that might feel the same, and we didn't realise the power in it, the validation. And so you've just done that for a lot of people like you.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing
Yeah,
thing.
that's sort of what I hoped I could do. And I know I've had loads of thoughts and ideas and everything, probably 1% of which has come. I've said, but you really helped enable me to be able to speak and feel at ease. So really thank you a lot for that, because you've put me at more ease than I expected to be.
Oh, no problem at
And
all. Well,
even
we're
with your
glad.
super big microphones. I'm so glad you were playing around with them and not just had them, if you see what I mean.
Don't get fooled by this setup, because I only Googled a few videos to figure out how everything worked. So yeah.
She's a whiz. She's an absolute whiz.
I can tell.
Learning
It's
as we go.
amazing.
So is there anything else you'd like to add? Any messages you'd like to give anyone? Advice? Anything?
There's loads, but it's all fallen out of my brain. So
Well, I was just going to ask one more quick question before this. If there is someone around your age that is thinking they have ADHD and they're looking for answers, what would be your advice to them?
maybe listen to the podcasts. I'd say go down the self-diagnosis route first, do the questionnaires and things. But yeah, if they're up for it and they feel like they can stick with it, go for a diagnosis. But everybody's different, aren't they? Do what's right for them. That's what I'd say. But feel okay in being where they are.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's all I could say. But it's okay to be where they are and explore it. Keep exploring.
Yeah. That's a great
100%.
message.
And start telling people. That's what I do a lot now when I introduce myself to somebody new. I say, I'm probably ADHD. You'll probably notice because I'm going to be all over the place in what I say to you or in the conversation. But that's why I sort of explain myself when I meet people before.
Yeah, well,
so
I guess
they're sort of a bit prepared.
I guess that helps take some of the anxiety away from you, because if you can explain yourself for being maybe awkward in a situation or not being able to focus or pay attention, then giving that little bit of an explanation at the start takes away any anxiety, because at least you've been able to explain.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Spot on. That I think that is what I'm doing. And then I'm much less likely to do the self-criticism afterwards, because I'll think it's all right. I explain to them why I'm going to be really odd and or appear odd or not provide what they're hoping to get from me or whatever. I've explained it to them, so it'll be all right. And yeah, I don't do that afterwards then. So you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I mean, the thing that I take away from what you've just said is, like I've explained that I'm going to be odd. And the truth is, yeah, we are, but we all are, which means that we're not, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all in this together. We're all the same. We're not the same. We're different, but we're cut from the same bit of cloth, as the expression goes. Yeah. So you're only odd to people who don't get it, and people in the community do get it. And we're all in it together. So that's a really lovely thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as you're leaning into your community, you don't have to feel odd.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we're not.
Yeah. I've noticed that people who are super sensitive, hypersensitive, have you come across that sort of syndrome?
Yeah.
I found that a lot of my friends actually come into that box, and I think it's because they're more acceptant of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I feel more understood.
Yeah. Exactly. And, there's clustering as well. We're all like magnets for each other.
Yeah.
We only have one more question for you, and please take your time. What is the most ADHD thing that you have done recently or ever? Tell us anything that you could be like, oh, that's so ADHD of me.
Well, it's so all the time that it's quite hard, because I knew you would ask this question.
Yeah.
And this morning I was thinking, I got up and I've got because I was traveling traveling yesterday, I got here late. I thought I'll unpack my bag and put my clothes and things away and sort it out. I did a bit. Then I went, I'll make myself a coffee. Then I made myself a coffee and I started doing the washing up. No, I didn't. Then I thought, I'll sweep the floor. And then I started doing the washing up. And then I remembered I was having my coffee and the bag's still not unpacked. I didn't even have a wash and get dressed. So I'm not in my pajamas.
Well done.
So
Hey, that's a win.
That's quite an achievement in your honour.
Well, we very much appreciate it. I mean, we would have been fine with pajamas too, but we appreciate the
we
effort.
appreciate it. I still haven't unpacked from about 2 weeks ago.
And I've brushed my teeth.
Well, you are winning today.
The other thing, I was brushing my teeth. I was brushing my teeth. And the next thing, I was cleaning the toilet while I was brushing my teeth. And yeah.
You know,
absolutely
just,
multitasking at all times.
So that's the OCD compulsive bit. Yeah. Thank you. It's been really good to meet you.
Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
For everything you're doing and for doing this, because it's helped me massively listening.
Oh, we're so glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, keep doing you, and remember that self-diagnosis is valid, and like you say, just keep looking and reading and learning and understanding yourself.
Something we're learning to do is follow your own advice. So accept yourself, because you are great as you are. You are amazing.
Yeah.
You're not odd at all. You're a ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the word? You're an individual. Yeah.
Yeah. And a legend.
You are you, and remember that there is no one else out there that is like you. So be proud of who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
And the same for you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, it was lovely speaking to you.
And to you.
Thank you.
And I struggle with saying bye-bye, so you might just have to cut me off.
Yeah, that's fine.
How lovely was Kit?
Oh my God. The loveliest.
She's just the sweetest. She was struggling a little bit with signal and internet and stuff, but she did an incredible job, and it was so lovely to speak to her.
She really, really did. And I think, it's such an important message that she's giving, and that I hope we manage to convey enough, is that, like, self-diagnosis, obviously, as we always say, is valid 100%, right? And we say, oh, well, it has to be because the system is broken, but also out of choice. Like, yourself, if you align with these traits, if you have these struggles, like, that is valid. You have it. If you feel that you have it, and you need to do what you need to do, like leaning into the community to support yourself, speaking to others, etc. But also, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I got too into it. I forgot what I was saying. But also, self-diagnosis doesn't just have to be valid because the system is broken. I think I did just make that point, but I'm going to go around in circles just in case. It can just be valid because you know yourself, and that's respected. That is respected, and it should be respected. And if anybody says, well, I don't, I'm not going to accept your diagnosis or anything because you haven't got one, they can literally fuck off.
Get in the bin.
They can. They absolutely can.
Absolutely. But yeah, like, it took a lot for Kit to open up and speak to us. And you can see in speaking to Kit how much her self-worth has been eroded over the years. And it breaks my heart to see someone like that, because
she's all heart. She's just,
Yeah, she's all heart. She's all goodness. And she cares so deeply, but she doesn't put that same care back into herself.
Yeah.
And that is heartbreaking to see. And that's the reality of what undiagnosed ADHD does to a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think both of us can relate to that on such a level as well.
Yeah.
Like, our self-worth has affected us to the point where it's, you've put coping mechanisms into to cope. And I think Kit said at one point, that she just will avoid going out, avoid speaking to people.
That's exactly it. It's the isolation element of it. I really, really relate to. It's just like, I can't deal with going into these situations and coming out of them feeling like I've said it's something wrong, that everyone hates me or whatever, that whole RSD spiral. So I just won't go. Whereas for me, that's sort of been more online. Like, I'm not in WhatsApp groups and things like that. It's because I can't deal with the potential of that I've said something wrong because I always do and everyone hates me and it's horrible.
And I think a lot of my problem with my self-worth is that my problems aren't as big, so I don't share them. I don't want to bother someone with how I'm feeling because I don't want it to be a burden to them. So I'll just swallow my pride and just keep going and pushing forward. And then everyone's like, oh, Dawn's so happy all of the time. And it's like, I'm not. I just don't tell people about the fact that I'm not. And so, being able to open up and talk about things is, very admirable.
And I think also, I think it was quite interesting what she said about depression. Like depression just being a standard emotion that everyone has at all times, and anybody who isn't depressed is a weirdo. Like, our own little worlds and how we see things and the, the levels of suffering that we will actually tolerate as base standard norm. Yeah. Like that's really sad. I really, really, really get that. And both of us are, excuse me, both of us are now going back to therapy, aren't we? Yeah. So, because I've accepted a really, really low base level norm, which just isn't all right. It's not acceptable.
And I've just been in denial about a lot of things and not owning up to what I want and not knowing what I want. Yeah. And so there's a lot that I need to work through. And I came off medication. I don't know if I spoke about this in the podcast, but I came off medication for a week, and that was a big realization because I didn't think meds were working. Yeah. Because I'm still procrastinating, I'm still not getting things done. But I realized that the meds help with impulsivity, and the meds help with maintaining focus. Yeah. But they don't help with the procrastination because the procrastination isn't a direct result of my ADHD symptoms. Yeah. Procrastination is a result of coping mechanisms and overwhelm and fear and shame and guilt and all of these things that are completely all tied into self-worth. Yeah. So it's like, shit.
So it's like the undiagnosed ADHD has knocked your self-worth to that point that's where you get stuck, rather than it being an actual symptom, but it's still directly related. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not a direct result of ADHD.
It's not a symptom. It's
not a symptom of ADHD. It's a result of undiagnosed ADHD.
Exactly that. It's been a lot of realizations this end. Like from my end, it's just like I just live for everybody else all the time. Yeah. And I'm in fawn mode, and I just do whatever everybody else needs, and I leave myself just completely depleted and my self-worth on the floor. And it's neither of our fault, because we've both got late diagnosed ADHD, but it is both of our responsibilities to try and work through it and do better. And it makes rather than doubling down and just keep repeating the same patterns again and again.
Yeah, and it makes it really difficult when you've got two people working together who are both fawning, who are both depressed, both struggling with anxiety, with overwhelm, with all of these things, and who both have coping mechanisms for their undiagnosed ADHD, which directly conflict with each other. Yeah. Like it can make it really tough going, and it has been. And we're still learning, and we're still
doing our best. Yeah, which often doesn't look like our best, but you can believe it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So would we say that's probably the most ADHD things we've done this week?
Oh God, yeah. That and sticking peanut butter on my drying rack in the kitchen. I found a jar of peanut butter there the other day, and I was like, what the hell? Like just where you put the drying rack where the dishes go, like a full jar of peanut butter. I'd obviously taken it out of the cupboard and ate some of it, and then just stuck it back there for some reason. Yeah, who knows?
I guess mine is like just not realizing really obvious things. Big heart to hearts with you, big heart to hearts with my husband. Just like, I'm not as trapped in things as I think I am. I trap myself in things, and just big realizations that are so obvious, patterns of behavior that we miss. Katie Harrison talked about that a lot. We don't see the patterns of behavior, the cycles of within relationships and within our relationship with ourselves, just repeating and repeating. It's like, this is staring you in the face now. Are you going to change what you're doing?
Yeah. So most ADHD things from our listener, I have one here. I was doing one lot of washing for 3 days. We've all been there. I kept forgetting it was in. All I can say, I got one very clean lot of washing. Also missed my dentist appointment.
that I waited for weeks. List goes on.
That's just reminded me that literally a second ago, I just remembered that I actually have to go for an ultrasound scan that I was freaking out about 6 weeks ago because it was so far away.
Yeah.
Because of this perimenopausal business. And I've literally just found out it's in 2 hours' time. And thank God I looked.
Yes.
Because, I would not have known, even though I was desperate to have it. Here's another one. Learned to crochet because I needed a novelty dopamine hit, then didn't get off the sofa for 2 days.
All been there.
Finally, this one is from our community.
Which is from Kirsty, who says, coffee machine needed beans. I put them straight into the water dispenser. Good one. Followed by wearing 2 different shoes to work, which I styled out when it was pointed out to me and said I wanted to see how many people would notice. And they believed me.
I love it. I love it that she styled it out. Like, yeah, this is what I do. I'm just wearing 2 different pairs of shoes.
Like, shame eradicate. But I think there's an important message in there is like, take ownership.
Yeah.
I was listening. In fact, I was wanting to mention this in the podcast. I was listening to another popular podcast, Shag, Married, Annoyed. You may have heard of it.
Oh, you may have heard of that one.
Yeah, Chris Murphy, it's fucking incredible. Anyway, one of the things that they do is they get people to write in and tell stories and stuff. And this story was about a kid. It's pretty grim. Like, prepare yourself. This isn't the usual chat that we talk about.
Why are we doing this?
Because I think it's important. This kid basically farted in their class and followed through. This was a teacher writing in about the kid. Followed through. Like, actually, like, there were 2 kids were having a farting competition about who could do the loudest fart. And so this kid farted in class and basically shit himself.
Yeah.
Like, they were all laughing about it. And the kid stood up and was just like, oh, miss, I need to go. I've shit myself. Like, said it out loud. I've shit myself. Walked out into the corridor, shook their trouser leg. The poo came out and landed in the corridor. The teacher had to go out and stand guard so that no one walked over it, and all the other kids would come round, like, we're walking past pretending not to notice, but everybody noticed. So obviously you know that this kid's going to be the talk of the school. And she's like, God, like, I don't know when this kid's going to come back to school, because he had to go home and get changed or whatever. She's like, I don't know when we're going to see him again. He's going to be so affronted, he's going to be so embarrassed. An hour later he was back at school, owning it, did not give a shit. Well, obviously.
Well, he did give one.
But there's such an important message in that, as if he didn't take any shame from it.
No.
He just owned it. He became a legend, like, talk of the school, instead of, oh, you're the kid that shit himself. He was just like, yeah, I'm the kid that shit himself and didn't give a fuck. And it's just like, when you take ownership of, like, your failings or the bits where you fall down, like, no one's going to take the piss out of you or, like, you know,
think less of you,
because it's just like, you're fucking owning that shit. And it's like, yes,
literally owning that shit. On that note,
totally digressed, but I did feel like it segued in there nicely.
No, I loved it. It was great. So yeah, I guess we should probably call it a day there, but thank you to Kit. Thank you so much to Kit, and to anybody who that resonated with. I hope there are many. I'm sure there are many. And just know that you're not alone in it, whatever age you are at, when you discover this monumental, life-changing discovery. Like, it's valid however you want to see it. You know, it was good that Kit pointed out the barriers with age, but actually, you know, as we said, you know yourself and you know what's right for you.
And whether you want to seek a diagnosis or not, that is entirely up to you.
Yeah.
But if you feel you resonate with the symptoms of ADHD and you feel like you have ADHD, that is enough.
That's enough. Absolutely. Lean into the community. If you can't afford to join ours, then there are plenty of free platforms online. There's Reddit, there's Facebook, there's all sorts. But if you can afford to join us, we'd love to have you. You know, we really would. It's such a special, safe space full of like-minded legends, as we said.
Yeah.
And, you know, it really means the world to have the support of the community for us, because we really do work so incredibly hard. And we've put a lot of time and energy into it. And
well, let's be honest, Laura, you work incredibly hard and you put a lot of time and energy in it. You have really done a fucking shit ton for this podcast, and we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for all the hard work that you've done.
Thank you. Don't make me cry again.
I've tried my hardest to do as much as I can, but it's not been anywhere near as much as you've done. And I just want to make sure that that's recognised.
Thank you. I'm trying not to cry. So yeah, if you would like to join us, we would love to have you. I don't know what to say now. So yeah, we're here, and I was going to say the whole rhyme, and I'm not going to because it's not mine. But we would love to see you and speak to you on there, and I would love to see you in person if you want to come and see me live. I'm obviously getting a bit scared now.
But don't, because this is what you're born to do. You're a natural presenter. You're going to absolutely smash it. And yeah,
I just can't wait to connect with everybody. Christmas is tough, and to be honest, I'm already finding it tough. Watching things about families and stuff is tough for me right now. So yeah, Christmas will be tough, but we've got chosen family, and we can all come together and support each other at this challenging time. So
and if I can make it to some of those, rest assured I will be there.
Absolutely, because you've got to sing Black Velvet.
But I think that's enough of us from this week.
Thank you.
But have a lovely week, have a lovely day, and be kind to yourself, because God knows we need to be.
Yeah, somebody needs to be. And Kit is a ledge.
Yeah, we love you, Kit.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Noun, ledge is usually defined as a
What the fuck?
Hard, as a horizontal shelf-like projection.
Alexa, stop.
What the fuck?
I wasn't talking to you, pal. And that's staying in.
Bye.
Bye.
ADHD has females. ADHD AF. ADHD has females. The podcast.
We did it for the acronym.